it is always so refreshing to do tutorials on photography yet again. So today we're going to talk about cards. Now a lot of the same principles from the box video will apply to this one and for the rest of the videos going forward here in this particular series. But today, let's talk about cards. So one of my favorite ways to take photos of cards is to accessorize them. And what I mean by that is to complement them with different items that will make the subject, in this particular case cards, stand out. So with cards, what you can do is to use the same colors that are depicted on the card with items that match that similar color. Let me explain. So here is a photo that I took of Iron Man, who is one of my favorite heroes of all time, aside from Doctor Strange and Moon Knight, in case you're wondering. So what colors do you think of when you think of Iron Man? Red and yellow. So those two primary colors are instantly what you think of when you think about Iron Man. That's his entire suit. That is his palette. That is literally his signature look. So what I did was I took the Yongnuo light sticks, which I have right behind me and I've talked about many times. I've also linked it down below, and it is also my accent light right here. And what I did, since they are RGB lights, I switched one to yellow, switched one to red, and then I curved them a little bit so that way you have some leading lines towards the center, which is where you're directing a viewer to see the card. It also restricts your viewer's eyes so they go instantly to the card and then stop there. So it creates some kind of boundary for those leading lines. But the problem is I have some negative space up top and it's just empty if it's just two lights and a card. So in order to fill that space, I added a Iron Man hat that I had. And this works out perfectly because on the hat, it has like this metallic surface. So texture is a great key thing to take note of when you're taking photos. So that metallic texture fits in perfectly with Iron Man. And then I did a couple other things. One, the logo, I wanted to make sure that stood out a little bit. Now the logo of the hat was chosen intentionally because I wanted that, again, to accent the card. Secondly, it'd be boring if I just propped down the card and then your eyes are kind of glossing over everywhere and not really focusing on one particular subject, which is why I propped up the card. And then I added in another component from the board game. So this is really important because not only do you want to add a single card, but it also helps to add different components and different accessories from the board game itself in order to really highlight those particular cards. So that's why I put the health mark right below it. Also put number 13 because that's my favorite number. That has nothing to do with photography tips, but I always put like little details like that in my photos and I don't always explain them. But in case you're interested, that's why I put 1-3 in the health marker. Now aside from complementary colors, what I also like to do is to add in contrasting colors and different textures. So for example, from Lords of Hellas is a board game that is revolved around the whole futuristic Greek theme. So what I did was I found this really polished metal structure in a park somewhere, and then I propped up the army card along with this metal surface. So a really cool color technique that you can do is to use the color wheel and to think about that as you are staging your photo. So here, the army upgrade card is orange, as you can see here. The opposite of that is teal on the color spectrum. And originally the building miniature that's propped in the card right here is gray, but even though it's gray, I purposely made sure like I can edit the shadows so that way they're teal. That way those teal colors are contrasting with the orange highlight. Now, not only this, but it also makes the card so much more interesting because the building card is propped up next to an actual building miniature from the game, which in turn are all propped up along this metal surface that surrounds all of this in general. So if you're thinking about textures here, you have the smooth metal surface, you have the rough metal ridges, and then you have all of these intricate little details and patterns that are on the building miniature itself. So what's key here is to think about what textures are going to match your card, and then to also use colors that are contrasting each other on the color wheel. Oh, but I know what you're thinking. Tim, I have 10,000 cards I need to take pictures of. I don't want to just do one at a time. I want to do a bunch at a time. And I'm going to answer your question right now. Because what you can do is if you have a bunch of cards together, they're acting as a set. And then what that means is that they probably have some kind of commonality or some kind of theme within that whole deck of cards. For example, in this photo here, so this one I took of rival restaurants, and in rival restaurants you are cooking and you're rival chefs and you're using a bunch of different ingredients that you're gathering along your turn, which works out perfectly because all of these cards are ingredients. So their commonality in this case is that they are all depicting real life ingredients, which is why I gathered up the closest ingredients I had to the actual ingredient. And then I took the photo directly ahead because if I were to do it slanted or more parallel along the surface, I would only see like the first 1 to 2 cards and the rest would be out of focus. So that's why I did, in particular, this overhead shot. It's also called a flat belly shot. And then for one of the recipe cards in the game, I actually recreated that entire breakfast, made it all from scratch, ate it after too and enjoyed it. It was pretty bomb. So I had that in the background. I had the main recipe in the front, and then also had one of the chefs pointing at the recipe. And then to add that little kicker in the end, like I said earlier, I always like to add little details in there because I always want my viewers to like gaze over the entire photo. I don't want them to just look at one particular subject and then move on. You know, I want them to glaze over the entirety of the photo because that's why I always make everything so intentional. So aside from the breakfast in the background, aside from the chef, aside from the card in the foreground, I also added in syrup in the end, so it adds that little nice touch, just a point of interest and to make you want breakfast. That's what I wanted to do. So that just adds that last wow factor, which really helps accent the card and that all-American breakfast. So one extremely common technique that I've seen done is to take cards and then elevate them across the surface, and then to take a photo right above and then blur the background. Now the next time you take a photo like this, I want to challenge you to take it more creative and to take it to the next level and to make it more tailored to the story behind the game. Remember, the easier it is to take a photo, then the more forgettable it will be. So let me show you how to take that particular technique to the next level. So when I did Fujikoro, there are these magical gear cards in the game. And in Fujikoro, you're going to gain these cards by visiting different temples, and they'll have different magical equipment there. They actually have these slots where you can put the card right in the temple. So I picked out a helmet and a weapon. I picked out these two in particular because I thought they looked the coolest. So I took the helmet and then put it right on top of the roof. And that's how this whole technique starts, right? Just one card elevated, blurred background. However, now I want to add some theme, so I took this to my backyard, and then I found some bamboo sticks laying around. And then added a second card, a weapon right beneath the card in order to create some more depth. The bamboo, initially I put it as foreground, but the problem with that was because it's blurred, you don't really know what that is and what purpose that serves other than it creates some kind of depth, right? So in order to fix that, what I did was I took the bamboo and I put it right next to the temple. And the reason behind that is because it's in the same plane as the cards and the temple, now you can see exactly what the bamboo sticks are because now they're in focus, right? They're in that same focus plane. And then I added in a couple more in the foreground in order to create some more depth and to make it more interesting. And lastly, what I did was, because it was midday, which is probably the worst time to shoot ever, what you want to do is to be able to control the light. So I took all this, put it under a shaded tree that we had, a very, very tiny potted plant in the backyard. And then I moved the leaves a little bit to let some light leaks in. That's why you have a nice soft glow over the cards and a very, very tiny sliver of light to create that focal point right in the middle of the picture. And I also took a shot with that bamboo because it's always good to have a backup, right? You always want to do horizontal shots, vertical shots, different compositions within the same setting. Just take a bunch of photos, even though you are 100% confident that you took a good photo, just take 3 more of those because you never know and you never want to trust a 10-inch LCD screen. Because when you get home and you realize that, oh shoot, one of my photos are out of focus, you know, that's SOL. That's what it's called. So in order to prevent that, always take multiple photos regardless of how confident you are that your photo turned out good. And that is how you improve your board game photography, in particular for cards. So that was episode 2. I hope you're enjoying this series so far. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comments below. Or if you have any particular questions about certain topics or different compositions or what have you, let me know so I can cover them as we go. Now next up, we're going to talk about, I would say, maybe the second most difficult thing to photograph in board games, and that is tokens. Our tokens. So I'll see you all in episode 3.